my man can get here on time, like
if he can get here on time, we can get this 30 for 30 jumping.
Yeah, and it's gonna be hot. Trust me.
And you talking about you wasn't gonna show up. I knew you was gonna be here.
Man, I gotta see Winston.
I don't even want mine signed. You gotta turn it up just to get Greg's head in. Cut his head off.
Now they say I was Steph Curry before Steph Curry. I see him at the Hall of Fame, Southern Conference style. He look like he about to do a jab step.
I know it.
Cal, what happened against Michigan?
I was sick that game.
Cal, you always sick. You weren't even at senior night.
Because I was hurt.
Man, I am just so glad to see you, man. Thank you for being on Your High School Sports, man.
Thank you.
This guy is a legend. There's so much we could talk about.
Actually, another good friend of mine, my video guy, Sterling Foster, had introduced me to Kelly. And I had told Sterling I was thinking about writing a book, and he was like, hey, I got the guy that can help you. So, long story short, Kelly and I conversed over the phone, and he told me he would love to help me with the project. And, we got it done. And when he told me he was impressed with it, then I felt really good about it. So it was good to share my story. And, it's kind of like the underdog, maybe the little man, but the underdog type story, and I just want to be able to motivate people to get after it. No matter your size, no matter if people are not believing in you, you still can try to make your dreams come true. My thing is dream big, and, you just never know what can happen. I know my dreams have come true, and it's been lovely.
And speaking of dreams come true, did you ever have any idea your career would end up this way? In other words, when you were young, a young little toddler, probably picking up the basketball the first time going through elementary school, did you ever think that you make it to the NBA to have a career in basketball?
I mean, I believed it. When I was telling my sixth grade teachers that I was going to play in the NBA, they all looked at me like I was crazy. But I really believed it. And the older you get and you start to realize, okay, you don't have a lot of short players in the NBA, so maybe it might not come true. But, I had so many people telling me that I couldn't, that I just kept going for it, and I kept going for it. And then the closer I got, then the opportunities presented itself, and I finally made it. And it was like the best feeling ever, to dream big and to have your dream come true. And then to be able to share it with people that supported you, it was just an awesome feeling. Awesome.
Speaking of sharing and support, you got a lot of love today here at Fanatics 101. I know a little bit earlier I missed that crowd. I kind of timed it where the crowd just was walking out. But talk about the love and support you got today for your book sign.
I mean, this is why Johnson City will always be special to me. The fans that supported us when we played, they came out today to support this function right here with the book signing. And then I have my teammates that, Greg drove from West Virginia. Lauren drove from down past the Knoxville area. Calvin's in the area. These guys that understand what we went through to come back and support me, it just shows the brotherhood that we still have. And like I said, Johnson City has always been special. Just being able to say thank you to the fans in another way. I mean, anytime I get the opportunity to do that, I always take full advantage of it.
But I want to talk real quick, because we want to kind of march some of your accolades throughout the career. We know that you played ETSU and standout guard there, and people thought you were undersized, but you made a lot of magic. You ended up becoming, I think, second team All-American. You was Player of the Year one or two times at the Southern Conference. Big accomplishment, and most importantly, you won the Naismith Award. And talk about how it felt to win that award.
I mean, first of all, when it came to basketball, I never played for the accolades of it. All I knew was just from watching the greats early in my life that if you play well enough, you can be rewarded at the end of the year. And I was just blessed to play with a group of guys that put winning first. It was never, I got to score this, I got to do this. It was always, how can we beat this team? And, the camaraderie that we created just created something in this city that hadn't been seen before. And so, you know, when we started cutting down nets as sophomores and then did it again as juniors and did it again as seniors, and then those guys after us did it another year, it just kind of lets you know that up in the mountains we had a tradition going that a lot of people didn't hear about. And I think it's just going to be a matter of time before we can put something together to try to make sure people realize, you know, we were the Butlers before the Butlers. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people didn't want to play East Tennessee State, you know, and we understood why, because we were good, you know. And so, you know, as far as piggybacking off of that, you know, I was, like I said, I passed the ball a lot. You know, I played with wonderful guys that could score the basketball. You know, Calvin, Greg, these guys scored a lot of points, which made my job really easy. And
made you look good. Huh?
Yeah, it made me look real good, and it was just a joy. You know what I'm saying? And when it all came to an end, you just felt like, wow, I can't believe this period in my life is going to end, because these guys that you bleed and blood, sweat, and tears with is not happening anymore, but the memories are still there. And, you know, I was just happy to be able to share a lot of it in this book. And, you know, like I said, just to have my guys come back and support me, it just shows you how tight we still are.
Yeah, that's truly a blessing. And like I said, it's good to see some of the old guys. I know you mentioned Calvin and Greg and Lauren. And
they're in the book.
Oh, they're in the book. And they had some magic moments themselves too. Calvin, former dunk champion. I mean, it like you just said, unbelievable. I may actually have some footage I may be able to show, but incredible years to be a ETSU Buccaneer. I mean, we were football players. Team wasn't that great, but I tell you what, when basketball season came, man, we were first in line, you know, to go in there and check out those games, man. Just a magical moment. The crowds there were unbelievable. I don't think we've seen really crowds like that. We've had great teams afterwards, but I don't think we've really seen crowds like that. What did it feel like to play with that type of love and support?
I mean, just at the shooting rounds, you know, if we had a 7 o'clock game, you know, I was usually on the court at around 6 p.m. just getting warmed up, and it was packed then. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to concentrate and get ready for the game, and next thing you know, I'm signing autographs before the game, you know, and then after the game, we get mobbed again. So, you know, the fans, you know, but people enjoy winning. You know what I'm saying? I think before we got here, they weren't winning as much, and then all of a sudden you get this period of time where you win in 20 games, 27 games, 28 games, 25. You know, I mean, I think people gravitate to winners. And plus, we had a good group of kids. You didn't read about us in the newspapers or anything going on crazy. You know, guys worked hard, you know, and we try to do good stuff in the community. So I think that's why a lot of the city gravitated towards us. And then I think that's why we still get a lot of love when we come back. You know, I can have my hat down low and sunshades on, and some people will still be like, "Hey, mister, how you doing, man?" I'm like, wow, they really must be fans, you know. So, I mean, it's just a, you know, great place. Great place.
Well, like I said, it's been great talking to you. I want to point one thing out real quick. I know we talked just before we did this interview, but I said, I've got a story to share with Mr. We had one class together. I think it was intro to theater class, but that's not the story I want to share. When I got on campus,
go to class too. I did.
He did. I can vouch for it. He did go to class. But the story I want to share is, you know, football players, we think we're pretty good athletes too, you know. And a lot of them, they played basketball in high school, and they like to kind of show their talents, you know, as well. And we would have some fun, you know, sometimes, and we would just play some pickup games right in front of Davis. Mm-hmm. And sometimes the football players would challenge the basketball players. And, you know, I saw him on TV. I saw him play live. And I looked at Keith, and I was like, Mr. Jennings, I said, is this guy the truth, man? I said, maybe this is my opportunity to see how this guy is, because his game was so savvy and smooth, man. The way he moved, you know, it looked a little slow, but he had a deceptive quickness about him. So all I can say is somehow I got on him and I guarded him. So I was like, okay, let me see what he's got. I could D him up. And I'm glad there's no cameras the way they are on phones now, because he did some little move that just left me in the dust, and next thing you know, it's in the bucket. And from that point on, I just, you know, gave all my props to this guy. And I've always remembered that story, and I occasionally share that story. He's like, you remember something like that? I said, yes, because, man, you made me look really, really bad. But this is the type of player this guy is, man. Unbelievable player. Like I said, my son's going to be proud that I'm doing this interview with you. And I think you just signed the book. Yep. So we'll get that to my son. Mm-hmm. But like I said, much love to you, man. One other thing, like I said, speaking of young kids like my son who look up to players like you, if you could give, you know, this is your high school sports, and like I said, we like to do a lot of things in the community for the kids. And you know, if we get a chance to talk to to celebrities like you. We would like for you to be able to give, just some word of advice to maybe kids who, need a little inspiration and encouragement, and maybe a little word, that something that may be said today may be just that little edge that gets them over to one day they may be a guy like you and can make their dreams fulfilled. So if you got just a word or something you could say for the kids.
I mean, well, when you're talking about high school basketball, I think that's really where the dream begins. You grow up with a group of guys that, hopefully got that. Like I said, I always go back to winning with me. That was the most important thing. It wasn't about what I could do individually, but as a team, as long as we got the win, that was one of the most important things. So take winning seriously. I know in this day of age, they always, pretty much everybody's a winner these days. Everybody gets a trophy, this and that. I mean, I didn't grow up in that era, but it seems like a fun era right now. But for the most part, have fun. I mean, the game of basketball or any sport that you play, I think you should take it seriously. But at the same time, if you're having fun, I think you're going to enjoy it more. I think that's why I smiled on the court so much. I think that's why I laughed with my teammates so much, because it just was a fun thing to do. But don't neglect the hard work of it. Don't neglect the repetition of being out there every day. And definitely don't neglect the conditioning. I think a lot of people take for granted that being in great shape is easy, and it's not, especially in basketball. The sport is continuously moving, and I realized that early in my career as a 10th grader, I was up jogging in the mornings before school. I would come back in my little dusty driveway and shoot my 200 jump shots and then go to school, So, I mean, it's things you got to do to be really good, and you got to also understand a lot of other people want to be good. So you're going to run into those people one day, and if your game is on point, I'm thinking you're going to be happy with whatever kind of success you have. If your game is not on point, it will be shown.
It will be shown. It will be exposed. Huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, that's some excellent advice, kids. Take that to heart, because this is true. A lot of behind the scenes, just like he talked about, getting up early before school. Kids, you doing that? You may want to take some advice from Mr. Jennings. Hey, real quick, I know we was going to go there, but Mr. Jennings, I've heard this story before. Tell them real quick how you got the name Mr.
I was a football player. I think that's how I, learned to get some type of toughness in the game, and, just out there with my little league friends, 7 years old, we out there just playing football, and, Dad had been out there for a couple hours ready to go, and he was like, "Keith, let's go," and I could hear him, but anytime you're the man, they couldn't tackle me. I was faking everybody out. They was like, "Ooh, who is he?" And all of a sudden my dad was like, "Mr. Jennings, get over here," and I was like, "Mr.?" And he was like, he calls you Mister? I was like, yeah, he calls me Mister. So it kind of stuck, And real quick, funny story about when I first got to East Tennessee State, of course, I was a little homesick because my family left. And Rodney Jones, upperclassman, was a junior, happened to come by my room. Actually, the first other guy that I had met besides some of the freshmen. And he's like, "Freshman, what's your name?" And I was like, "Mister." He was like, "Mister, that's your name?" I was like, "Well, my real name is Keith, but everybody calls me Mister." "Well, I'm not calling you Mister. I'm calling you Keith." After he saw us play the first week, he said, "I'll call you Mister." That's everybody. I see why they call you that. So yeah.
Great story. Like I said, I understand. I understand from experience. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, we've had a great time here. Like I said, Fanatics 101. Much love to KD and giving us time to be here and giving Keith, Mr. Jennings, an opportunity to see his fans and do some book signings for the fans. And also,
what up, Mom? Pop?
Hey, Mom.
What up? He stopped fast.
Oh, I'm disappointed in you, man.
He had a reunion.
Disappointed in you, man.
Why?
Because he didn't ride your little kitty ride?
This year, this was my last.
Hey, I know you used to haters. Hey, Keith, look. I know you used to haters. You know what I'm saying? What you gonna do with them cookies, bro?
No, man. You call me the Cookie Monster. I'm about to get these M&M's, all this good stuff in here.
The weight limit is 260.
That keeps me out there.
Man, go ahead.
I'm 260 right
I don't
there.
know. Hey, I don't know if you 160 where you throwing that shirt out. I don't know if you 160.
Show him the sign anyway.
You know,
Show him the sign anyway.
$25, but $24
All
for
the
you, your number.
all the times you drove my car too and put no gas in it. Yeah.